As Facebook's controversy concerning Cambridge Analytica is in the news right now, we got this particular news story popping up that no one's really talking about, and that is here, university police are surveilling student social media in an attempt to make the campus safer. Now, in essence, this is not a bad thing, right? You want campus police to make the campus safer. That's why they're there. That's why they're paid. That's why they are, in essence, cops. No, really, I mean that legitimately. Like, campus police have the authority of police officers. So if you ever wonder why campus police have arrested people, that's why. But when they surveil social media of students, I feel like that's a step too far. But maybe this will teach us that it's not. Maybe they're going to have a good, solid explanation here. Now, a very interesting article in Campus Safety magazine explores a disturbing practice we've been hearing more and more about. Schools and campuses are proactively surveilling student social media accounts to find possible wrongdoings while it's happening or before it happens. If that idea troubles you, you're not alone. Yeah, because we're entering into a Minority Report pre-crime situation, and no one likes that. Just like no one liked Minority Report when it came out in the summer of 2003. Sorry, Spielberg, that wasn't one of your best ones. Now, Campus Safety magazine reports that the University of Virginia contracts with a service called Social Sentinel for $18,500 a year to monitor its students' public social media posts. It works by scanning student social media accounts based on a library of harm of thousands of words curated by Social Sentinel, in addition to words tailored to the specific school contracting with them. Posts from students containing words on these lists are forwarded to the police, who then decide whether or not to investigate the students, which I ultimately, that does make sense. But at the same time, they're just paying a company 19 grand a year almost to just kind of run search on Twitter. Which is probably actually not as difficult as you might think, right? It's not as difficult as you might think. There are apps out there, for example, like Hootsuite is one that I do frequently use, and I have now for about 7 years, or almost 8 years actually. And what I do with Hootsuite is you can look to see what's in your general vicinity. So, and you can go 1 mile, 3 miles, 5 miles, etc., or custom however long, and it will geotag, look at the geotags of all the tweets and show you what's all happening around there. And so that's ultimately what I feel like this particular company is doing. They're charging you 19 grand to just look through feeds to look for certain trigger words. And then those words will then probably raise a flag, and then those are what they view and they hand over to the police that way. It's a very simple thing, and you figure, $18,500 a year divided by 12, it's a little over $1,000 a month. But just imagine what else they're finding, what else they're seeing, and what else they're getting access to, and everything else. And that can be a problem, especially if it is being used by the wrong people. Now, it says here that we look at a whole context of the post, said University of Virginia police officer and crime analyst Beth Davis. And therein lies the major problem. The whole context of a post is almost never available to someone as far removed from the post as an officer or school administrator reading it. Innocuous or inside jokes and a whole host of other protected speech will often be completely lost on them and could appear threatening without that crucial context. Now, just that paragraph alone, by the way, just that paragraph alone summarizes a lot of the BS that goes on Twitter when you're cracking them jokes, when you're trying to bant, when you're trying to make people laugh. You have any idea how many times I've been suspended on Twitter because I called a friend a cunt? Quite a few. Quite a few 12-hour suspensions. Yeah. So I get it. The whole context matters. Also, YouTube and the demonetization situation, context matters. And that's, I think, where we are right now in terms of social media and dealing with all of that is very much the situation surrounding context and who there is going to interpret the context, and are they able to interpret the context? Are they able to understand the context? We literally have no idea at this point, and it's kind of just a toss-up, and I don't like that at all. Now, it says here, you have to translate the old mentality of see something, say something, to seeing threats online and reporting them and acting on them if necessary, said Officer Ben Rexroad, Community Service and Crime Prevention Coordinator for the University of Virginia Police. And of course, he's right that threats should be reported to the police. Students should be encouraged to report threatening social media posts, and police should take those reports seriously. But police surveillance also differs from simply encouraging members of the public to report suspicious behavior. For example, when a student sees something on social media and reports it to the police, they're doing so usually because they have the context to understand the post and still find it threatening, which is very true. It is. I mean, I've gotten death threats on Twitter that I have sent off to be reported on. And maybe it was missing context at the time or something. But they've been like, nah, you're fine. Like, what? Like, okay, this is weird, you know? The crucial difference between a report from an algorithm and from a student is that when a student reports it to the police, they are exercising their judgment to decide if that tweet could be threatening. And then the police are using their judgment about whether or not to investigate. Forwarding any post that pings an algorithm to police and then having police make a judgment about its context eliminates from the equation those most capable of judging a social media post's context, the post's audience. It's a scattershot tactic in an arena where precision is paramount, and that is so freaking true. Like, that is so true. Look, content is king, obviously, when it comes to most things, but context is God. And if that context is not there, I mean, look at how many times people have been fired for losing a job over a joke. Look at how many times people have been vilified over something that they said that was taken wholeheartedly out of context, right? Like, go back 3 years almost now. Mad Max Fury Road is on its way to coming out, and you had all these progressive blogs that were saying, like, oh, the men's rights activists are saying that this is a feminist movie, and therefore have called for the boycott. And the men's rights activists were just like, no, we didn't do that. And they're like, no, it's all you men's rights activists. You are all women haters, and that is the end of that. But the context of that particular story was one that no one looked into. It wasn't a group of MRAs. It was one asshole. One guy named Matt Forney, writer for Return of Kings, a pickup artist website, who, in their About section, comes out and says, yeah, we really dislike MRAs. But because of the lack of context and the quick to judge, it created this huge hoopla, this huge crazy thing that ultimately benefited no one. And I had to sit there forever on Facebook and argue with people about the facts of the situation because they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to be a part of it. They didn't want to be around them at all. They just were like, well, men's rights activists hate women. No, men's rights activists disagree with the tenets of modern day feminism and how family courts treat men and a lot of other issues involving men. They're just sexist. Sure. Okay. After a while, you just got to stop because you're just like, oh, Jesus, like, you know, you might be able to reach a couple people. And I did. I feel pretty good about that. But at the same time, context freaking matters. Now, the officers may be able to intuitively eliminate some false positives that the algorithm spits out, such as students tweeting about good shots at a sporting event, as mentioned in the article. However, since their job is keeping the campus safe, they are incentivized to investigate borderline cases, and that incentive works to increase the number of false positives. Now, that's a hard thing because they want to investigate more, but then they're going to realize that more and more and more are false positives, which then is going to take up time and resources and maybe take away from actual crimes that have been committed. And ultimately, it's not going to be something that is going to be looked at as being beneficial to trying to keep a safe campus. But because they've paid for the service and they want to investigate, they're kind of stuck doing it. So it becomes this system, this cycle, this loop on repeat where nothing ever really changes except for the occasional, we got one. Right? It says here, but what's the harm in that, you may ask? Put yourself in the shoes of a student on campus. What would you do if you were aware that anything you post may be flagged by the school administration or police for containing one of the thousands of keywords in Social Sentinel's library of harm? Do you make the decision to tweet less? Do you restrict your posts to friends only? It seems hard to imagine how you could moderate your tweets to avoid thousands of words when you have no idea what they are. Man, this thing's like speaking to me. This is all freaking like YouTube, right? Apply this same logic to the YouTube demonetization situation, and it's just like, it's right freaking there. How can we be expected to change? How can we be expected to work in line with what they want us to do when we don't know the parameters? And students are the exact same. The last thing you want is to go around accusing students of being racist, sexist terrorists, because then it's going to cause them to freak out over what they post online, wondering if they're going to get a knock on their door at 2 a.m. from a cop saying like, excuse me, Becca, did you say that you were going to kill Becca G? Okay, like you're Becca H, she's Becca G. All right, like, you gotta stop that. It's the 4th time this month. It's like, I wasn't gonna like kill her. She was like, just, I caught her blowing my boyfriend. So I just vented, you know, like, get a new boyfriend, Becca. Like that whole thing, like that kind of nonsense. I don't really know where I'm going with that one. Anyway, and assumed you get flagged and questioned by the police, many people would probably change their behavior. And while people might want to be more mindful of what they post publicly online, fear of police in their school monitoring them and misinterpreting their messages shouldn't be students have to navigate, which I completely agree with, as well as this expanding past college campuses and moving into the real world. I feel like this is kind of like catering to snowflakes, essentially. In many cases, students aren't even aware that they're being surveilled. Like in the Georgia Institute of Technology, student Matthew Wolfson, who, as mentioned in the previous article, only discovered the university had been tracking and archiving his social media posts when he requested his records. If there is one thing creepier than an all-encompassing social media surveillance, it's secret all-encompassing social media surveillance. And how could you change your posts if you knew you could end up with your student records? Right? Or if you knew they could end up with your student records. And that is pretty creepy. Now, it says there's no question where this will lead, or no question of where this will lead. Will we see schools begin to use social media monitoring to enforce unconstitutional speech codes that are all too common? It's impossible to say for sure, but it must be tempting as schools look to justify the tens of thousands of dollars that they spend on these programs, which is very, very, very true. We've already seen this on social media. There was Yak, which was a social media app for colleges that ultimately, due to hate speech, was closed down. It was basically banned on college campuses, and it's no more. And it was predominantly used just in colleges and universities. These kind of tactics that we see from the regressive left or the progressive left or just the whatever, these are the kind of people that want to limit speech. People like Francesca Ramsey that want to limit speech, all while trying to argue that they're in fact expanding speech because a couple new words get created in the place of the other words that are being banned or being shunned in public. This should not be allowed to happen. And this is not the first time, too. Cops have been known for years to create false Facebook accounts in order to befriend certain members, fraternities and whatnot, or partiers on campus in order to gain access to their social media posts to discover whether or not they're doing drugs or drinking alcohol underage. And then when there's photo evidence of this, because let's face it, kids are dumb and they take pictures of everything, they go and they bust them for it. Now, I find that to be far more invasive than this, but this is still not anywhere better. Now, it says here is there's no guarantee that the list of words only include words signaling potential behaviors that are threatening to others. Could references to private drug use be included in the list? Until the list and the protocols for proceeding on the surveillance are made public, we are really left to blindly trust those in power who are running this expansive surveillance system. The free exchange of ideas on campus is an invaluable and irreplaceable part of the ideal college experience, and the chilling effect of student social media surveillance actively undermines that. It goes without saying that the goal of making campus safer is laudable, and in this day and age, campus safety is a hot-button issue. But not all solutions are equal, and these blanket surveillance programs are a bridge too far. And I cannot agree more with Rin Weiss's statement here. This is relatively frightening. This is scary. And this, of course, is a reality. You've got the University of Virginia and other places paying 19 grand a year to a company that's created an algorithm to look for certain hot button words or hot topic words or banned words, essentially. And then when that happens, they forward that information off to the police, and the police, who are probably not even trained in how to understand a lot of what's going on with social media these days. I'm sure many of them grew up with this as well, so they probably have a better understanding than they did 10 years ago. But then they're left to interpret the context. And that's just pretty bad. I don't like any of that, and I hope these programs go away faster than they got started. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you haven't already, thumbs it up, hit on that subscribe, check out 3 Buck Theater, check out Mundane Chats, or if you just want to help support the channel, the best way to do that is patreon.com/mundanemet, link below in the video description. Thank you guys again, have yourself a great day, and peace out.